Oh, awesome, Nick. Thanks so much. And then the last question, very quickly. So this is from an agent. The agent has a managed lease. There was an exit inspection, and quite a few things were broken in the apartment. And there were two light fittings that were imported from Italy, and these were around 43,000 Rand. So the owner has agreed to replace the lights with cheaper versions of 6,000 Rand each. And the total amount deducted from the deposit is 22, which includes other damages. The inspection list was sent out as well as quotes for the damages, but it sounds like the tenant is very upset. Does the landlord have to entertain her alternative quotes of 1.5 per light fitting? Yeah, which doesn't equate to the same quality at all. Or yeah, is it enough to simply send the quotes to the tenant and tell them too bad?
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So dealing with deposits, obviously a landlord is entitled to take a deposit in terms of a lease agreement, be it residential in terms of the act that's allowed, commercial, it's simply an agreement between the parties that a deposit will be paid. That deposit is retained by the landlord in order to satisfy any outstanding obligations that the tenant might have during the course of the lease agreement. But very often, our deposit is used for reinstatement of the premises at the time that the tenant vacates the premises. Now remember, the tenant generally in law has an obligation to return the property to the landlord in the same condition in which it was received, except for wear and tear. So normal wear and tear, just usage of a property. You can't hold the tenant strictly liable for those things, but they are still obliged to return the property to you in the same condition relatively to what it was given to the tenant in. Now, when a property is given back, often there are damages on the premises that have been caused by the tenant. The landlord is entitled to go and appropriate the deposit towards fixing those particular things. Okay. What is very important in these particular, when that is occurring, when remedying the premises comes into play, there is nothing in legislation that entitles the tenant in the circumstances to dictate how that is done. And it's very important. The landlord is perfectly entitled to utilize the deposit to fix their property. And in so doing, they are entitled to go and appoint contractors or whoever they need to go and fix up the premises. It is not within the rights of the tenant to dictate who to use or what price should be used in order to remedy the premises. Absolutely not. And we get a lot of tenants who come back and they're not happy with bills. It's absolutely irrelevant. The tenant is absolutely entitled to vouchers. So the invoices, quotations, vouchers of whatever kind for the remedial work to actually occur in the circumstances. And of course, the tenant is entitled to an exit inspection in the presence of the landlord, or if the landlord is not available, then the property has a deeming provision that it's in good order. So the tenant should take an opportunity to use that, but they cannot dictate how the landlord fixes up the property. It's simply not within their ambit. So in terms of this question, and in particular in this question where the tenant sends quotations or invoices for light fittings that are 1,500 Rand, whereas the light fittings that were provided at the commencement of the lease were imported expensive light fittings. That's simply not returning. It's not returning the property to the landlord in the same condition in which it was received. And in any event, it's not within the rights of the tenant to dictate what light fittings must now be placed within the landlord's property after they've occupied the premises. So the landlord is perfectly entitled to replace them with the 6,000 Rand light fittings, and the tenant doesn't have any recourse against the landlord for them doing so.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nick.
Perfect. Thanks, Bruno.
Have a good one.
See you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.